Welcome to Warfare Codex. If you enjoy fascinating and unusual history, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more incredible stories. Now, let's dive into the strange and extraordinary world of history's most unique individuals. 1. The Battle of Marathon, 490 BC. In 490 BC, the Persian Empire, under King Darius I, launched an invasion of Greece with a massive force, estimated between 20,000 and 30,000 soldiers. Their target? The small city-state of Athens. The Athenians, knowing they were vastly outnumbered, assembled an army of roughly 10,000 hoplites and marched to face the invaders at the plains of Marathon. The Greek general Miltiades devised a bold strategy. Instead of holding their ground, the Greeks charged at full speed towards the Persian lines. The Persians, accustomed to fighting with archers and cavalry, were caught off guard by the sheer aggression of the Greek infantry. The Athenian flanks crushed the Persian wings, and soon the entire Persian force was in chaos, retreating back to their ships. Despite being outnumbered, the Athenians lost fewer than 200 men, while Persian casualties ranged between 6,000 and 7,000. This stunning victory secured Athens's place as a rising power and proved that disciplined infantry could stand against superior numbers. 2. The Battle of Agincourt, 1415. The Hundred Years' War between England and France saw one of the most famous underdog victories in history at Agincourt. On October 25, 1415, King Henry V of England found himself trapped in enemy territory with an exhausted army of 6,000 troops, mostly longbowmen, facing a French force of 20,000 to 30,000 knights and men-at-arms. The muddy terrain worked in favor of the English. As the heavily armored French knights advanced, they were slowed down by deep mud and the relentless barrage of English longbow arrows. The French, packed tightly and unable to maneuver, became easy targets. When the English finally counterattacked, the French lines collapsed, suffering catastrophic losses. Over 10,000 French soldiers were killed, while the English lost fewer than 500 men. This battle reinforced the power of the longbow and demonstrated that a well-positioned, well-prepared army could devastate a numerically superior force. 3. The Battle of the Teutoburg Forest, 9 AD. One of the most infamous ambushes in military history occurred in 9 AD when Arminius, a Germanic chieftain, led an army of 15,000 warriors to annihilate 3 Roman legions, totaling around 20,000 to 25,000 soldiers. The Roman governor, Publius Quinctilius Varus, unaware of the brewing rebellion, marched his forces through the dense, unfamiliar terrain of the Teutoburg forest. Suddenly, Arminius's warriors launched a devastating ambush. The narrow paths and thick woods prevented the Romans from forming their famous battle lines, and their armor and supplies became a hindrance rather than an advantage. Over several days, the Romans were relentlessly attacked, cut off from reinforcements, and slaughtered. Only a handful of survivors escaped. This crushing defeat ended Rome's expansion into Germania, proving that even the mighty Roman legions were vulnerable when stripped of their tactical advantages. 4. The Battle of Stirling Bridge, 1297. During the First War of Scottish Independence, William Wallace and Andrew Moray faced a powerful English army at Stirling Bridge. The Scots numbered 5,000, 6,000, while the English brought 9,000, 12,000 troops, including heavily armored knights. The English attempted to cross the narrow bridge over the River Forth, but Wallace and Moray waited until a significant portion of the English force was trapped on the other side. Then they launched a sudden and ferocious assault, cutting off their retreat and slaughtering the English troops. The bridge collapsed under the chaos, drowning many of the English knights. The result was a decisive Scottish victory, proving that superior positioning and strategy could overcome greater numbers. 5. The Battle of Myeongnyang, 1597. One of the most astonishing naval victories in history occurred in 1597 when Admiral Yi Sun-sin of Korea faced a massive Japanese fleet with just 13 ships against over 300 Japanese warships. Using the narrow waters of the Myeongnyang Strait, Yi positioned his small fleet where the strong currents would work against the Japanese ships. As the battle commenced, the superior maneuverability of Yi's fleet allowed them to devastate the disorganized Japanese navy. The narrow strait created bottlenecks, preventing the larger enemy fleet from surrounding the Korean ships. Yi's fleet managed to sink or disable over 30 Japanese ships, while the rest fled in chaos. Despite the overwhelming odds, Korea's victory at Myeongnyang halted Japan's naval dominance and cemented Admiral Yi's legacy as one of history's greatest naval commanders. 6. The Battle of Salamis, 480 BC. In 480 BC, the Greek city-states faced annihilation from the Persian Empire, whose fleet numbered 1,200 warships. The Greeks, led by Themistocles, had only 300 triremes, but knew they couldn't win in open waters. Instead, they lured the Persian navy into the narrow Strait of Salamis, where the massive Persian fleet struggled to maneuver. As the battle began, the tightly packed Persian ships became easy targets for the nimble Greek triremes. Greek rowers, trained for speed and precision, rammed into the enemy, sinking dozens of ships. Persian forces panicked as their larger numbers became a disadvantage in the tight waters. By the end, over 200 Persian ships were destroyed, forcing Xerxes to retreat. This victory saved Greece from Persian conquest and solidified the power of naval strategy and warfare. 7. The Battle of Morgarten, 1315. In 1315, the Swiss Confederacy, a loose alliance of peasant militias, faced an invasion from the Duchy of Austria. The Austrian army, numbering around 9,000 knights and soldiers, sought to crush the Swiss resistance. The Swiss defenders had only 1,500 troops, mostly farmers and woodsmen. Instead of engaging in open combat, the Swiss lured the Austrians into a narrow mountain pass near Lake Egeri. As the heavily armored knights advanced, the Swiss launched an ambush from the cliffs above. They rolled boulders and logs down onto the enemy, causing chaos and crushing many before they could react. The disoriented Austrian forces were then attacked by Swiss infantry, who used their halberds and spears to slaughter the remaining knights. The Austrians suffered heavy losses and were forced into a humiliating retreat. This battle marked the beginning of Swiss military dominance in Europe. 8. The Battle of Cartagena de Indias, 1741. During the War of Jenkins's Ear, the British launched a massive assault on the Spanish stronghold of Cartagena de Indias, modern-day Colombia. A fleet of 186 ships carrying 27,000 men attempted to overwhelm the 3,600 Spanish troops defending the city, led by Admiral Blas de Lezo. Despite being outnumbered nearly 8-1, de Lezo strategically used the city's fortifications and narrow waterways to his advantage. He ordered trenches to be dug, flooded key passageways, and forced the British to fight in confined areas where their numbers meant nothing. The Spanish defenders, suffering from disease and exhaustion, still managed to repel wave after wave of attacks. After weeks of brutal fighting, the British were forced to retreat, suffering over 18,000 casualties, while the Spanish defenders held their ground. This humiliating defeat crippled Britain's ambitions in the Caribbean and secured Spanish dominance in the region. 9. The Battle of Rorke's Drift, 1879. During the Anglo-Zulu War, a small British garrison of 139 soldiers found themselves defending a supply depot at Rorke's Drift against an overwhelming force of 4,000 Zulu warriors. The British, commanded by Lieutenants John Chard and Gonville Bromhead, quickly fortified their position using mealie bags and crates, creating a makeshift barricade. As wave after wave of Zulu warriors charged, the defenders held their ground with disciplined rifle volleys. The battle raged for over 10 hours, with the British making desperate last stands in hand-to-hand combat. Despite being severely outnumbered, the British only suffered 17 casualties, while the Zulus lost over 350 warriors. The defense of Rorke's Drift became one of the most celebrated moments in British military history, earning 11 Victoria Crosses, the highest military honor in the British Army. 10. The Battle of Vienna, 1683. One of the most decisive battles in European history occurred in 1683, when the Ottoman Empire besieged Vienna with an army of over 150,000 troops. The defenders, numbering only 15,000 soldiers, were on the brink of collapse after 2 months of brutal siege. But just as the city was about to fall, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, led by King John III Sobieski, arrived with an army of 30,000 men, including 3,000 elite Winged Hussars. The Polish cavalry launched the largest cavalry charge in history, crashing into the exhausted Ottoman forces. The charge shattered the enemy lines, and soon the entire Ottoman army was in full retreat. This battle marked the beginning of the decline of Ottoman power in Europe and solidified the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth as a major military force. Thanks for watching Warfare Codex. If you enjoyed this journey into history's strangest figures, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more amazing stories. See you in the next one.